Program for International Student Assessment, PISA. Welcome in the session on Assessment for Learning Part 2. In Part 1, we discussed what assessment is, two types of assessments, that is assessment for learning and assessment of learning, and differences in between these two types of evaluation tools. Now in this session we are going to focus exclusively on assessment for learning. During teaching learning process, there are always so many questions in a learner's mind, like how am I doing? What is really making me think? How will I know if my work is good? What do I need to do to improve? How am I going to make this improvement? What are my targets? Where do I have to focus my revision? What can I remember and understand? Am I learning in the best way for me? What are my strengths and weaknesses? And answers of all these questions are there in evaluation tool assessment for learning. Again I repeat, what is assessment for learning? Assessment for learning is ongoing assessment that allows teachers to monitor students on a day-to-day basis and modify their teaching based on what the students need to be successful. This assessment provides students with the timely, specific feedback that they need to make adjustments to their learning. In the coming video, we will focus on main principles of assessment for learning, its rationale, and planning strategies. Assessment for learning as summarized by A. Ramaprasad. Answers of these three questions. Where are we going? Where are we now? And how will we get there? Is formative assessment or assessment for learning. Let us start with first question. Where are we going? This step involves the teacher setting and clarifying learning goals and the information that will be considered as evidence of achieving those learning goals. Second question, where are we now? This step refers to the specific practices in which teachers seek to understand students' current and prior knowledge, as well as their conceptual framework as they relate to the learning goals. And the third question, how will we get there? This step includes teacher design or modification of instruction to meet students' needs. As per evaluation tool assessment for learning, during teaching learning process, all three, teacher, peer and learner, play equally important role. Ramaprasad's first question, where the learner is going, role of the teacher is, teacher clarifies success criteria, peer shares success criteria, and learner understands success criteria. Answer of the second question, teacher checks understanding of the learner, peer evaluation of success criteria, and self-evaluation of success criteria in respect of learner. And the third question, how to get there? Teacher feedback on how to improve, peer feedback on how to improve, pupil or learners feedback on how to improve. Assessment for learning in the classroom is characterized by 5 principles. Sharing the learning intention, sharing the criteria for success, quality questioning based on criteria for success, providing feedback based on criteria for success, and peer and self-assessment. Out of these 5 principles, first 4 are governed by teacher, but the last one is governed by students in an AFL classroom. This is first principle of AFL classroom, sharing the learning intention. Sharing learning and assessment intentions is a powerful way for teachers to improve student learning. Learning and assessment intentions provide a focus for and clarity of the knowledge, understanding, and skills students are expected to develop as a result of teaching and learning. Students should have clear notion of learning intention of each lesson. The learning intention is what you hope students will know, understand, or be able to do by the end of lesson. Examples: by the end of this lesson, you should be able to separate sand, salt, and water. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to understand the character of. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to draw a diagram of. Learning intentions can focus on knowledge, skills, and understanding. Next principle, sharing criteria for success. The term success criteria was coined in the UK. It is synonymous with assessment criteria, but instead of reminding students of their experiences of being assessed, this term focuses on students' ability to succeed. Success criteria refers to concrete learning performance, something students will say, do, make, or write to indicate they are moving towards learning goal. Give students clear and easy to understand criteria that relate to the learning intention. Example: you should know how to separate sand, salt, and water using certain procedures, and you should know the reasons why they are separated. Help students to know and recognize the standards they are aiming for. Show them other students' work which has met with the criteria and explain reasons why. Next principle, quality questioning. Using the technique of questioning and classroom discussions for an assessment of student learning provides the teacher with an opportunity to increase their students' knowledge and improve understanding at the same time. Teachers should ask thoughtful, reflective questions rather than simple, factual ones, and give student adequate time to respond. And why to ask quality questions? To find out what students know, to find out what students think, to challenge students' ideas, to manage students and maintain their interest, to encourage students to recall information and experiences, to help them understand themselves as learners, to stimulate their interest, to develop their thinking skills, to build student confidence, to lead students through a process that develops understanding in steps. Teacher is supposed to create a classroom environment where all students feel safe to take risks and make mistakes. How would you define a good question? One which causes students to think, one which promotes discussion, one to which every child has an answer, one which has a purpose. Some students, for various reasons, do not answer in class. Teacher has to think how to encourage these students to answer in class. When looking at questioning in the classroom, teacher should consider wait time, variety of questioning, developing key questions for key stages of the lesson, quality of questions like why does, could you explain, etc. Well thought questions involving more than one student in the answer. The fourth principle of AFL classroom is feedback. As per A. Ramaprasad, feedback is information about the gap between the actual level and the reference level of a system parameter which is used to alter the gap in some way. AFL can involve providing feedback following an assessment, but more importantly, this feedback is delivered during instruction, which allows instructors to identify student misunderstandings and help them correct their errors. This formative feedback is crucial for improving knowledge, skills, and understanding, and is also a significant factor in motivating student learning. Actual performance leads to desired performance if constructive feedback is given. Students must use this feedback provided by the instructor to engage in the appropriate actions required to close the gap between the actual and desired level of performance. What is effective feedback? Specific descriptive feedback is necessary for improvement and success. Teacher must provide feedback to each learner, and feedback must be task focused instead of ego focused. How clear is the feedback we give to the students? If teacher says great work, best in the class, this kind of feedbacks are just useless because these inhibit scope of betterment. Positive feedbacks should be like you wrote correct formula, did correct substitution, just work on calculation part. More examples are develop these ideas further, incorporate example, graph, data to improve your work. Good answer could be supplemented with a diagram. More details needed here. Let us compare situations when only comments are given and when only marks are given. Students respond to constructive comments more than just grades. Mark emphasize competition, not personal improvement, and discourage collaborative learning. Marks demotivate low achievers. Marks don't give learners advice on how their work can be improved. Feedback is most effective when it confirms for the students their strengths, their weaknesses, and where to go next and how to reach there. Last principle of AFL classroom, peer and self-assessment, only principle that is governed by students. Self-assessment. Students are involved in and responsible for assessing their own piece of work. Students know criteria for success. Peer assessment. Students are involved in assessment of the work of other students. Students have to have a clear understanding of what to look for in their peers' work. Peer and self-assessment are often considered together. Peer assessment can help self-assessment. By judging the work of others, students gain insight into their own performance. According to the literature, peer and self-assessment have several advantages over teacher-assessed work, as this requires students to take responsibility for their own work, as this encourages learning through discussion, as this increase motivation and interest, as this make students to think, as this develop collaboration skills. Strategies for self-assessment. Traffic lighting. Students are asked to use a color code to indicate current understanding of learning outcomes. Sample of work. Students are given samples of work. They are asked to identify best piece of work, common mistakes and reasons why. Marking scheme. Students are given marking schemes and asked to use it to correct their own answers. Strategies for peer assessment. Start in a small way and gradually move forward. Example, get first year to swap copies. Check that diagrams are labeled. Keywords for topics are present. Give out answers to a test and ask them to correct each other's test. AFL teaching methodologies are comment only marking, student input into decision about homework, students writing questions for tests, students asking questions, teacher questioning, wait time, group work, student self-assessment, student peer assessment, and other. Why assessment for learning is an important evaluation tool, as AFL encourages students to become more active and responsible participants in their own learning. Achievement gains associated with formative assessment have been described as among the largest ever reported for educational interventions. Formative assessment brings about an improvement in student learning, and the improvement is greatest for the weaker student. AFL encourages teachers to reflect on their classroom practice. AFL embeds culture of innovative practice. AFL encourages a collaborative culture among teachers within and across subject areas. AFL places teaching and learning on a school development agenda. Hence, AFL should be practiced more frequently in conjunction with other forms of assessment. Planning consideration involving implementation of AFL are pre-planning, time, roles and responsibilities, once-off event, supporting existing procedures, policies, criteria re-success from students, materials availability, information to parents, project implementation and evaluation. Assessment for learning recognizes all educational achievements, develops capacity for self and peer assessment, part of effective planning, focuses on how students learn, central to classroom practice, key professional skill, sensitive and constructive, fosters motivation, promotes understanding of goals and criteria, helps students know how to improve. Benefits of assessment for learning. It motivates unmotivated students, restore students' desire to learn, encourage students to keep learning, create increased achievement. With that, let us conclude this session. Thank you. Thank you very much.